you know, when I go into certain parking lots, like a number of the well-known gyms, I'm not going to drop names until they're sponsoring us, right? But the parking lot is loaded. It's stacked. People on those New Year's resolutions, and bravo. I hope they stay like that until July. But along those same lines, because actually we were going to have Marsha on coming up to the end of the year when a lot of people are trying to figure things out going into the new year. And so we said, well, there's an opportunity at the beginning of the year because of the work that she does. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a quick review of her bio just so people can get the breadth of her work. So Marsha Myrie is a national board certified health and wellness coach with a passion for guiding individuals towards healthier, more balanced, and purpose driven lives. With a foundation on both academic excellence and real world experience, she combines evidence based coaching strategies with a compassionate, client centered approach. A graduate at Hampton University, they say it's the real HU, I'm not in any of that, with a Bachelor of Arts degree and holding a Master's in Public Administration from Strayer University. Marsha brings both depth and breadth to her coaching practice. She has worked extensively in the recovery space, supporting women on their journeys to healing and wholeness, as well in as well as in behavioral health settings, where she partnered with adults of all ages to strengthen mental health, lifestyle habits, and overall well-being. Her coaching style is fair, firm, and empowering, marked by deep listening, thoughtful questioning, and a steady belief in each client's ability to uncover their own strengths. She creates a safe and supportive space where clients feel seen, heard, and equipped to take meaningful steps toward change. So, with that being said, welcome, Marsha.
Well, thank you for having me, and welcome to your entire listening audience. And Happy New Year. I think we still can say that. It's still January.
Of course.
Um, and it's a pleasure and an honor to be here just to talk about wellness.
Now, first of all, I should say this. I've known Marsha for a long time. She's actually the mother of my children, and I'm very grateful for that. And so I've seen her work in a number of different spaces, and some of that will come up in a little while. The term that didn't come up as such in what I just read, unless, okay, there's another piece I need to read because I knew I was missing a phrase. So, beyond Marsha's work in mental health and recovery, she has a special interest in coaching young adults who seek to build stronger executive functioning skills. That's the phrase that I knew I was missing. By blending her coaching acumen with practical strategies, she helps clients improve organization, focus, and follow through, equipping them for long term personal and professional success. At the heart of her practice is the conviction that lasting transformation begins with mindset, is sustained by daily habits, and is fueled by hope. Okay, so that's the, I almost missed the part of it that is the reason why we wanted to have her on at the beginning of the year. So talk a little bit about what it means to be an executive functioning coach. Because to be honest, I've been an educator for a long time and have done a number of things, and I only became aware of that particular role very recently.
It simply means is that as a coach, I am honing in on the fact that our brain is designed to manage complexity. And pretty much there is part of our brain, not to be too technical, called the prefrontal cortex. And it's in the pretty much behind the forehead. And housed there are executive skills, executive functions. Simply is just the stuff that goes to work to solve tasks, to execute tasks. We all have it, and it's developed over time, over birth. I mean, from birth until adulthood. And so basically, as a coach, being aware of that these are executive skills, I can use that as a tool to help clients. So when a client is struggling in their home life, in their work life, in their relationships, it is just another tool in my toolbox for us to assess. And once you're able to assess your executive profile, you're essentially looking at what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. And so there are 12, just to list them off. They're called, one is response inhibition. Then you have working memory. You have emotional control. You have task initiation, sustained attention, planning and prioritizing, organization, time management, flexibility, metacognition, goal directed, persistence, and stress tolerance. So essentially, anytime any one of us are going to do anything, from when Andrew was preparing for the streaming, and when he was dealing with the challenges that came up, how he responded to execute that task, he had to borrow those executive functioning skills. There was some stress that came. How was he able to deal with that stress tolerance? It is indicative to a whole lot of things. Whether or not he was able to be calm and to still problem solve, or did it overwhelm him through he threw his hands up and he just couldn't do anything. Some people respond to stress in that way. It just aborts a task and a process, and then their whole lives are aborted because the stress, and they couldn't manage the stress. They're not even aware of it. And so as a coach, I not only use my coaching structure and my coaching skills, I also look at these tendencies, the executive functions, to help a client navigate life.
That's amazing. That sounds like the perfect start to 2026 because I know so many people struggle with multiple of the categories that you had just listed out of those 12. Um, so with that, or Frank, I don't know if you had questions. I might say my
No, go
questions
ahead.
a little bit later.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. What were we going to ask? Yeah.
Um, so when you are dealing with clients, what would you say is the most common struggle that you run across? I guess most frequently out of those 12.
Um, Time management, planning, prioritizing. A lot of people have, especially at the top of the year, they have all these the laundry lists of things that they want to do, but they get overwhelmed and they may start one or two and then they abandon the whole process. So definitely planning and prioritizing, sustained attention. They'll get stuck. What is the number one thing, as Frank was intimating? So many people at the gym, they start it, but then they can't sustain it. And there's a lot that goes into sustaining. When that's a weakness, then there are things that we look to do to reinforce your ability, your capacity to sustain a task. So that's a big one. Um, and just getting started. So the task initiation. So if I had to pick the top out of the 12, I would say a task initiation, sustained attention, planning and prioritizing, organization, and time management. So those five are something that are reoccurring in my practice over and over and over again. Um, yes, I would say those.
That's actually because all of that seems like things that I've seen myself personally struggle with just throughout the course of my life, and those do seem I see that in other people as well as I'm just thinking about as you describe it because I wouldn't typically think of it in that context, but yeah, I've definitely run across that quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And what happens is when you realize that that is an issue that you're having, it really in just talking, listening to a person's struggles and where they get stuck and their challenges. Maybe if they just think about their performances on the job, feedback they may get back from supervisors, being overlooked for a promotion, if they're a student, uh, bad grades, not getting an assignment done, taking too long to get started, procrastination is a big one. Um, just we can just have regular conversation and I can kind of figure out which ones that may be a weakness, or you could probably tell me just like you just did. But then we also have assessments, tools that you can actually take a quick test and it can summarize it for you so that we can use that information and then kind of help curate the direction we will go in to help you be successful with every task. Because let's I like to just bring this to the forefront because everybody deals with this to a greater or lesser degree. We all deal with, right? Even myself as the coach. But the beauty is that I understand it intimately, the challenges, and I immediately have my interventions. And I have things that I put in my environment, the tools that I use to help strengthen the areas that I just naturally will be weak in. But then now, because I know that, so we all have it. We all have it. So there's no shame in it. It's about the empowerment is when we have the awareness and we identify it in ourselves. That's the important thing, that we don't turn a blind eye to the fact that we do have some struggles and challenges. The beauty is that having the awareness, identifying ourselves, and then go to work. Because if you want to optimize your life, if you want to have success, if you want to close the gap between where you are and where you want to be, it is necessary.
Sure.
Marsha, in your bio, you say that you have a special interest in coaching young adults who seek to build strong executive functioning skills. So, if you had to give us a prototype of what this young adult looks like, or who is this person? I'm sure that you have had the opportunity to work with this person in the past as a coach, because to Andre's point, I'm guessing Andre would probably be amongst that generation of people that you want to help, if not even younger. What would be for those people who will, and to be quite honest, to the point that Andre was making earlier, quite a bit of the people who tune into our show, they tune into the show after the fact, which might be common for a lot of people who do podcasts, actually. And
Mhm.
so for those people who will come on and watch this later, they already, some of the things you already said got their ears perked up. Who would be your typical young person that you would like to work with?
Many traits. They can have many traits. Just to name a few. Somebody who procrastinates, someone who maybe jumps from one activity to another without finishing, somebody who may have trouble keeping their workspaces or homes clean, very disheveled, who's just simply not aware. They're not maybe connecting the dots. They may seem aloof, maybe clueless of um, the bigger pictures, maybe having trouble in terms of reading the room, being socially awkward, not picking up social cues. And they might really have a really good heart and very kind and nice, but they are stumbling along in life. Maybe chronically late. Maybe they have gotten fired from a few jobs. Um, and it's because they are not the executive skills. They, first of all, they're not even aware that this is a function that they really have control over. It's just it's a skill. It's just like riding a bicycle. And if they were working with somebody to help point out, or if they were able to say, you know what, I've been fired a couple of times. No matter what I do, I can't find my keys. No matter I try hard, but I'm always late. Um, I wake up in time to go to work, but I get lost in time and I get to work late, even though I got up on time. It's just these constant little trips and hiccups. Um, those are prime candidates. And typically, a lot of times, young people, because they're navigating maybe from being at home with their parents, and now they don't have as much guidance, and so that holding hand support that they may have had before. Maybe they have gone to college and now they're navigating to the workspace and they're still not fully developed. And so those are, in terms of young people, those are the young people that if they just had somebody to help them navigate through that and figure out really who they are and look at what can I do to overcompensate from areas that I may be weak, and what are some strengths that I have that I can use to help complete a task or goal that they have. Because we all have, what, 24 hours in a day. And what makes up our life for all of us is our time and our action. What are we doing with our time? What is the quality of our time? And what are we doing with it? And so the time management piece, some people, it escapes them. And so if we can work on strengthening time management that can navigate to get through the day. Maybe it is we have to look at the flow of your day or the flow of your week. So we look at in terms of the executive function, again, it's just a tool, but we have to use a lot of other coaching skills and structures and processes so that it's the glue that it fits all together. It's not in a vacuum because the reason why we identify these executive skills is to support the values that people want to live out in their lives, to support the goals, the outcomes, the visions that they have for themselves. So we're just connecting the dots so that they can live and optimize their lives.
I think that sounds like when you were talking about being in college, I think that was probably the time it was exposed in my life to where, like, okay, there are some things that I can improve on, especially moving away from home, having to, adapt to being on campus, have a job. So just organizing and managing a lot of different things, going to class, going to work, relationships, friends, all of that. So trying to balance all that. I think if I had an executive coach, my friend, or probably my sophomore year in school when I went away to live away from home for the first time, that would have helped my transition a little bit better. But I also see, I think college was since he got exposed there, that's like an area where I think I had to kind of train myself to get some of those executive functionings up to par. And I think what happens is a lot of people who aren't thrown into an environment like that don't ever have the chance to develop that on their own. So that's where seeking out someone of your profession could possibly help somebody who feels that they're struggling with some of the decision making that she had mentioned earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Most people, if they're going to have any modicum of success, you're going to have to figure it out so that you can have some modicum of success. But if you want to thrive and optimize, you want to be able to master them. So a lot of times people will, get, do enough to get by. Using you as an example, if you don't mind, Andra, when you were in college, what of the executive functions that I mentioned, which one was the primary one you felt as though you struggled the most in?
The most, well, throughout my whole life, I've always had trouble starting, like the self starter thing. So whether it's
Uh-huh.
starting projects, um, I have a lot of ideas, so I bounce around from one thing to another, and that's something I still struggle with to this day, especially living alone. Like when I used to live with people, it's kind of easier to stay focused, or you have somebody to kind of, or you have other people around to kind of remind you that you have things that you need to get done. But when it's just you by yourself, you can go off on so many tangents and stuff, and there's nothing necessarily to anchor you down or kind of snap you back. So those are you mentioned with all 12 like running around in my head. I'm trying to remember all of them, but those two definitely stick out the most to me. Um, at that time, I'm always pretty decent with time management. I like to be early for a lot of things, so that kind of just removes the issue of you know misjudging time. So I just try to be early. So
Uh-huh.
that was one way that I think I handled that. But if I were to kind of try and plan everything out based off of the time something started, I probably would miss a lot of things more often.
Uh-huh. So basically, if that was a weakness, you would kind of put it off. I'll do it later.
Hmm.
Right. But I heard you said something that if you had other people around to support you, you were more likely to do it. And so that's classic. So with task initiation, if you know and you accept that, and you're like, okay, I want to improve on this, then we would, as a coach, we would brainstorm, and you would experiment with certain interventions that would be most likely supportive in task initiation. It might be, you know what, I'm going to be intentional. I'm going to write a statement of purpose of why I want to do this. Because when you can connect to the reason, the compelling reason why this is important to you, you are more likely to do it. So we might spend some time with that where you would talk that out. Now there's an emotional attachment to the reason why you want to do it. Give it more worth and value and meaning. And then that might be two statements that you write out and you have it in your environment so you can see it. Then I heard you say, um, hmm, if I told somebody else about it, I might be more likely because there's been evidence that's proven when we broadcast that we're working on something about that positive pressure, we are more likely to do it. So you might choose one or two of your confidants. Maybe it's Frank. Hey, Frank, by Friday, I'm going to start this project. I give you permission to ask me about it. Now you're like, okay, I know Frank he's gonna follow up because he's gonna ask me. So we would explore, and that's just two simple ones, but literally once we find the ones that you say, you know what, I could buy into that. I think that worked for me. And I don't, I hesitate of giving a laundry list of things because it doesn't work like that. It is collaborative and it is exploratory and it's a discovery base because you have the room to try something. If it doesn't work, we try something else. But we do know that I do know there's a laundry list of things. Um, and if you get stuck, I can make a recommendation. But I really, in the coaching process, is key, is that it's about self-efficacy. It's about you having your own ability and agency to do a thing. And that is the work that I do, is to draw that out of you. But I know, because I have the tools, I know, Andrew said that that's an issue, task initiation. So we're going to do a lot of work around that. We'll have a lot of conversation. We're going to massage it. You're going to practice it. It's going to skill. And week by week, we will work on that until a month later, it becomes a muscle that has been built, just like going to the gym. Because because you're this, I know I'm going to do this to overcome that. And that is the approach that we use with every executive functioning skill when it's weak. And we look for the strengths. And sometimes some other strengths can help. If time management is a good skill that you have, we're going to see how the time management can support the task initiation. Because now we're going to look about how is your flow of your day, because your time is important to you. And now we're going to be use what we call SMART goals. Look at making sure it's specific, it's measurable, achievable, action item, reasonable, and time bound. Because that's a strength of yours. I'm gonna draw on that as well.
Okay, so we bringing back the smart goals. I know Frank had us do a show on that one time. So okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's everything comes together. It all works together. It's just the executive skills is something that is very clear cut, and it's almost like you can pinpoint what the thing that's been tripping you up. And if we can remedy that, it can shift something in your life so they can propel you so that you can have success.
Okay. So what are some, like, what would a plan with you look like if somebody was coming to you consistently for coaching? Like, how often is that? Is that like once a month? What are their expected outcomes? Like, what would be the what would that look like?
Typically speaking, right now, um, it's at least 8 weeks. Ideally, 12. And here's why. Because we're talking about process, behavior change is a process. It's not a one quick thing, because you have been doing a thing for a period of time. And so we have to kind of undo some things and then help you rewire your brain. Um, there are pathways in our brain called neural pathways. And literally, everything that you do, whatever you do automatically, is because if you could think of a shovel, I'm from New York, and when the snow would come, we would have to shovel out at least a path from the door all the way out so we can just walk out to the sidewalk, right? Uh, and then on the side it would be the snow that's filled up. So that path and where you would walk back and forth, that represents everything that you do in life. It's your habits, it's your way of thinking, it's your mindset. And so it takes time to create a new mindset. And so typically speaking, at least 8 weeks. Um, I prefer, because most of my clients, because where I work right now, a lot of the clients prefer to go to 12, because they just want a little bit more time. And um, sometimes we can give them those extensions. But 12 weeks would be ideal. In my personal business, that's what I promote, and that's a weekly. So every week. Now, after that time, then we can assess to see what is your need. What do you think your needs are? Do you think you need to do it every other week, once a month for some maintenance? It is totally up to the person and what they have the capacity and the resources to do. But ideally, just somebody off the street, never been coached before, and they have so much going on because they're layers, as I was saying. I know we are focused on executive skills, but I like to use the analysis as we all can relate to working out. You know, a lot of times when we want to strengthen a muscle, we don't just target that main muscle, we target the muscles around the focal muscle that we want strengthened. If I want to strengthen my knee, I'm going to work on my thigh, my calves. If I want to strengthen my core, it's a lot of times we do exercises to strengthen the arm and the back and the shoulders and the gluteus maximus, and everything comes to strengthen another muscle. So that's what coaching is like. I was working with someone yesterday, and we were talking about improving her sleep because her sleep is horrible. And we talked about the typical aspects of, okay, what's the room environment? Is it dark? Is it quiet? Is it the right temperature?
Not to cut you off, I'm curious, what around what age, if you're not at liberty to say the exact age, around what age was this person?
Oh, the
Was the
person I was
sleep
talking
issue?
to yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, that person was in her 40s.
Okay. Oh,
And so we talked about all those things, but guess what? As we talked, we identified another issue that was impacting the sleep that was not as obvious. One, she's eating a big meal 45 minutes before her bedtime. Well, that will impact the quality of your sleep. And this is somebody who's 40 years old. You would think, I mean, so there's no judgment because there's people of all ages that just don't have the know-how. They, they, and they might know one thing, but they don't know how to really put it all together. Then we talked about it. So, it's just I don't want to assume anything, but when we're going to sleep, our bodies, if we're eating so close to bedtime, our bodies is not working on restoration, is working on digestion. Because it has so much food in there to digest, it's working overtime. It's not, you're not being able to relax and to go to sleep. There's a lot of research that says we should eat, have a space of at least 3 to 4 hours before bedtime, like no consumption. That's just the research, and don't take my word for it. Go read, go do your reading, and that I do that with my clients. I really don't try to. I don't tell a lot of information. We discover, and I ask them what they know, and then because of my credentials, I can speak a little bit about nutrition, basic stuff. I don't go too deep because ethically, there is a scope of practice I have to make sure I'm in. But because of my credential as a national board certified health and wellness coaching, I can talk the basics about nutrition and exercise and those things. So uh, I was able to tell her that, as well as exercise. She's not exercising. Well, if you're exercising, that also helps you sleep better. And so we it takes so much to unravel. It is such, for me, a joy. It's exciting because I do have a wealth of knowledge, and I'm not telling you all of the knowledge. What it is through my asking of questions and finding out more about what you want and the vision you have for your life, I now, through reflection and asking questions, can kind of draw it out of you using the coach approach of motivational interviewing. um, I can help you get to where it is that you're trying to go. So it's very, very complex, a lot of layers, and it takes time. So I guess that was a long way to answer your question.
Yeah, but it's funny how if we listen carefully, we can get answers to questions because I know the reason why I asked you the age of the person that you were referring to. I know a young lady, she's in her early 20s and she suffers from severe insomnia. Now, I remember having a colleague years ago who was actually at the time cusping on 50. And we know that when adults start to have shifts with hormones, that will lead to an onset of sleeping challenges. But we don't we don't see people have those kind of challenges with sleeping that early in life unless there's a cause. And I noticed with this person that I'm referring to, it would be, I mean, late, and the person would say, I just finished eating. And it would be like 11:30. And I'm thinking like, what do you mean? And today we're in a different world. So we now deal with people on other parts of the planet. And so this person is actually in a different country. And I was thinking to myself, wait a minute, I think I know what time it is there. And it's late there. You're just eating? And, as a spiritual person, sometimes you're trying to figure out this complicated thing when it's real simple. The reason why, probably, now, of course, like you said, there's layers, but there's a good possibility that her problem is that she's eating too late because it happens, it seems to happen all the time. So very interesting. Very
Oh,
interesting.
there are, believe it or not, um, Frank, there are more, let me say it this way, issues and challenges that used to be reserved for people who are older are now being experienced in people who are younger and younger. Um, because I see clients literally from 18 to probably 87. Um, and younger and younger am I seeing people suffering from chronic diseases. And that is because of the lifestyle, the way of the world and the lifestyle that is supported. There is such a go, 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 grind, grind, grind um, culture. The culture is really creating the sickness. And so people are attached to their technology. That's a big one. That the computers, the phones, um, that is in arm's length of everything that we do. And so that's a disruptor to the sleep. Our minds are racing. And we talked about one of the executive functions is the stress tolerance and just stress, managing our stress. What are we doing? Or is there any rest that is a part of your day, your flow of your day? Is that intentional? Is it, for most people, it is not. And so that's something that is addressed in the culture. Like I said, there's so many layers to unpack. And when a person is motivated, when they really want change and they want the ease and not the dis-ease, um, the length of time will pretty much dictate that. It all depends on what the person wants to get out of it. Do they want a quick fix? Are we just focusing on one thing and that's it? Or is it an overhaul? It all depends. Coaching is not a cookie cutter um, situation. It is all based on what does the person want to get out of it? What type of change do they want? You know, are they trying to overall their health? Are they trying to overall just feeling at ease? Are they trying to perform better at work? Are they trying to have a better home environment? Are they trying to maximize their relationships? It all depends because I'm dealing with the mental, the emotional, the physical.
So I've got a question for you, Andre, because those people who watch our show know that one of the main reasons why we came together for this intergenerational, to create this intergenerational space had a lot to do with how, in my opinion, how exceptional you have been. When you talk about your second year of college and you having that epiphany that, okay, there's something that I'm missing, how did you come to that conclusion? Because here's, and of course, this will tag us back to a question for Marsha, because as a coach myself in different areas, one of the challenges is for the person, for us, depending, like you said, we all have our stuff, to realize that there is something that needs to be addressed. And often it's either the person is totally clueless that this is something that needs to be addressed, or obviously in the case with executive functioning, a lot of people don't even know that there's somebody that exists to help people with that kind of stuff. So that's one thing. And then this idea that, okay, I know I've got this thing, but hey, you just don't judge me, just accept me as I am.
Yeah.
So how did you how, how did you come to the conclusion that there was something you needed to change that early? Because for a lot of people, they don't realize it until a long time later.
Yeah, I think so being in school and having that as kind of a monitor or of just kind of grade wise what I was making like in high school. Um High school wasn't really too difficult for me. I could get away with not necessarily performing my best, but I was still able to, get decent grades and pass. When I got to college and had a lot more on my plate, it was harder to maintain that same level of lack of studying and certain things I had to do a little bit more in college, but then also having more things to manage, like having a job on the weekends and trying to balance a social life. For me, I think since I was in sports in high school, that did help a lot at first because when I was in school and going and playing football, I was at school all day, and that structure though helped me know when I had to get things completed. And then when I stopped playing football, I started working, and so kind of having a place to do that. But then getting put into a completely new environment where it's like, okay, now I gotta work, school, feed myself, do everything else, make sure that my dorm room is clean. All of that was, I never had to juggle that many things by myself. And so just looking at, I'm used to just being able to go to class, listen, and, that be all the studying that I need. Now I have to actually set some time aside after school to make sure that I'm studying this, and then it becomes okay, well, which subject, since you're studying multiple subjects, it's like which subject do you need to focus on the most. And so that's where some of the procrastination came in. If it's a subject that wasn't my favorite, then I'd be like, well, I still got more time to complete that. And just it was really kind of assignment, so I was noticing it wasn't necessarily overall like all my classes were juggling, but just in classes that I might not have been as interested in, pushing assignments back, and instead of getting them out of the way immediately, I would be like, well, let me just do my easy homework now, and then I'll dedicate a couple of hours to this later. Then when that time comes to dedicate to that class, might not have dedicated the full amount of time to it. So things like that were kind of how I noticed that there were some things that I needed to tighten up. Um, and like I had an actual goal because I was trying to maintain my Hope scholarship, so that did give me some targets to where I needed to keep my grades. So when I did drop below that, in order to make sure that I was still getting the money in, then I had to make sure that I straightened up quickly. So kind of more out of necessity than just being able to pick up on, oh, I'm slipping up here and there. So yeah, I think having that goal and kind of that responsibility on myself to make sure that I'm able to afford school was how I was able to point that out.
And that speaks to, like you said, we had a whole show on goal setting. That speaks to the power of having a goal because it sounded like having that goal and how important that goal was to you and feeling as though you weren't leveling up to that goal helped to precipitate the change. Now, one of the things that,
Can I say something also to add to that point?
sure, sure.
The goal was one force, and I heard another force, the consequence. When with the fear of losing the Hope Scholarship. And in coaching, that's two things. We leverage anything we can leverage, right? And so sometimes we can leverage, and I like to use three things: fun. How can we leverage fun to work through a goal? How can we leverage a reward system? How can we self-impose a reward system? But when those two can work that in, a powerful one is a consequence. And he didn't want to lose the Hope Scholarship because I was going to impact his pockets. And I don't know if he had parents involved who might have had something to say about that as well. Might have been another layer of consequence.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to put that 2 cents in. But these are things that we can employ as interventions as well. Do you want to add that?
Now, one of the things that's interesting too, because as you said, we all have our stuff, and one of the things that you will find fascinating about Andre, Marsha, one of my things that I struggle with as I often refer to myself as a recovering workaholic. One of the things that I struggle with as a part of the culture is this whole idea of um, you sleep when you die. Okay, so that was you know Diddy and we that was that was that hip hop mentality, and I had that probably until I was in my early 40s. So I was fascinated on one of these shows when Dre tell them what time you typically try to get to bed, which as a young person, I was that was awesome.
Yeah, 10 o'clock is my set bedtime, and I use my phone to set my alarms, tell me when I start winding down. Um, so I typically like to start my day earlier, so like 5:30. So that's pretty much my window. So most of the times I can get into the bed by 10. Is now I've been trying to do my light workouts before I go to sleep. So sometimes I'll remember. It's not. It's just like couple of sets of squats and push-ups. So nothing too intense. But I'm pretty much getting to the bed before around 10, and then waking up at 5:30 to walk in the morning. So that's my
That's
schedule and routine.
that's a strong practice, and that's actually mirrors mine. But I had to work there because I, you know, years ago, I was one of those who didn't want to go to bed.
Yeah.
But because of the work that I do, and this is a quote that coaching is not a service profession; it's a modeling profession. What I coach, I model today. And my bet, I mean, it's getting earlier and earlier. Like 10, it's like 8:30. I'm
We're
yawning.
not there yet.
I'm yawning at 8:30 each day. And I'm up similar times, and for the new year, I've been walking. This is the first month I didn't walk because they was talking about snow in
Yeah.
Georgia. But I've been walking. And what that adds, and it's not just for the physicality of it, and that's the benefit. It is also uh, a spiritual aspect for me. It is also a meditative aspect for me. Going outside, seeing the change. I get to see the sunrise. When I leave, it's dark. When I come back, it's light. Get the fresh air. So, and I'm checking all the boxes that are important to me. And all of those tie in to the flow of the day. I wanted to piggyback again on something Dre was talking about when he was talking about his motivators. When you asked the question, what was motivating him? Something that that the one in the top of the at the top of the session today, you asked what were some of the executive skills that people um, I see that they don't use or need more of, right?
Mm-hmm.
I said that are very common. But the single one, I didn't talk about this one because this one, most people don't use it. I don't care what age they are. And it's called the metacognition.
Mm-hmm.
And the metacognition is the ability to stand back and pause and take a
Mhm.
like a bird's eye view of yourself, the situation. Its ability to observe your problems, and it involves self-monitoring and self-evaluation and taking an honest look and asking yourself honest, hard questions sometimes. How am I doing? What's going on with me? That requires pausing, stopping, getting quiet, getting still, reflective, and waiting, and maybe journaling, slowing down. And that is counterculture.
That's right.
But that is one of the strongest skill a person can execute that can revolutionize their lives because that's how you get to identify the issues, the problems, because you stop long enough and you ask yourself some questions and you're listening, you're looking, and you're going within. And for people in the spiritual community, that's your time to pray and seek God for help. There was a scripture I wanted to, and I wrote it down. I wanted to share. I think it's timely now for me to mention it, and that is Proverbs 25 and 28. He who has no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down without walls. And metacognition allows you to check in with yourself, with your spirit, so that you can be built up, so that you can optimize your life. It's like an oxymoron. We, you know, in the spiritual circles, if you are practicing, there is the concept of the Sabbath. Practicing, some religions or some sects of religion, they practice a Sabbath. And that is an opportunity to rest, to recover. What if you had that as a flow in your day? When are you resting and recovering? When are you pausing, reflecting, and having that self-reflection, that self-monitoring, that self-evaluation? That is how you catch things and pivot and make changes and correct.
So I know that there's a number of things because each person is different. However, one of the things that I see a lot of, and Dre and I talk about this, and he may hear certain feedback in his circles because we've been doing this for about 2 years now. Is it? Is it about 2 years?
Yep.
And you know, you always run into those people that will say, they want to do this, they want to do that. How how do you, as a coach, help people to just simply show up in the space that they say they want to be in, but for various reasons are not showing up? Because let me say this, going back to how and why we ended up working together, how I met Dre in the first place was there was a community meeting, and think we would meet every 2 or 3 weeks or something like that. I can't remember. This is maybe 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I noticed that this particular young man was actually showing up at the meeting. And I'm thinking, like, who's this guy? Because, of course, often with those in person meetings, the people who were more prone to show up have white hair or gray hair because, they hit their head enough times to figure out that they need to. So it was different for somebody in his age group to actually show up. So I know one of your target groups is young adults. How do you help them to show up in the spaces that they say that they want to be in?
It always starts with conversation and having them envision what it is that they want. Envisioning is really them looking into the future and saying 6 months from now, a year from now, whatever that timeline is, and picturing what is it that they want, whatever that is, whatever that might be. And now, once they have that fully distilled in view, okay, now let's look at where we are. And now assess just how important it is for them to make changes. How motivated are you to take actionable steps to get from where you are right now to where you are there, to where you are? And that is through conversation. Now, what might come up in the conversation is like, I really want it, I just don't know how to. Well, let's talk about some barriers. And they might have legitimate barriers. And then we work through piece by piece how we work past the barriers. What other support do you need to get you here? What and that is the process, and that is the coaching process, because now we are again, this it has to be something that they really want. Now, there's thing in coaching, there's a readiness to change. There are stages of change. And we have to assess that. The only time I work with a person is when they have to be at least in the contemplative stage. If they're in the pre-contemplative stage where they don't think there's nothing for me to do, there's nothing for us to do, right? So I don't work with just any and everybody. They have to qualify to work. They have to really want to. I'm okay if you're contemplate, like, I'm figuring it out. But then now let's do some preparation. And that's what some of the weeks of working together is true preparation, because there's some things that we have to do. Maybe you have to do some research. We need to experiment with a couple of different things before we can take an active step towards the goal. That's a part of the coaching process. And I lay that all out so the person is, and if they're willing, yes, because guess what? If it was easy, everybody would be there like this. Most things that are important, that are worthwhile, takes effort and work. And we have to navigate through the things that are barriers, but there's always an answer to it. And together, we will problem solve that out and achieve the goal.
Okay. I got one last question for you. What would you say the main difference between like coaching and what people would think of as traditional therapy?
Oh, great question. Great question. Therapy is when a licensed therapist, they are trained to look at a person's past And then they're going to unpack the way they are today based on what they dealt with in the past. And so they're gonna, whatever happened with your parents, your siblings, other family members, were you neglected? Were you, abused? Were you spoiled? Whatever the scenarios are, you're going to talk about it. Most people going to therapy, it's informed because of trauma based. So they're going to talk about your trauma and pretty much unpack the reasons why you are the way you are today, which is very different from what I do. And I explain that when I start working with somebody because, and I have, I love this because I have several friends who are therapists. One friend in particular, she will not work with a client long term unless she works with a coach. Unless her client also works with a coach, because I'm going to take you from where you are to where you want to go. The therapist
Hmm.
may or may not have that skill set to get you there. They might just dwell in the space of letting you understand why you are the way you are and helping you um, unravel and how to treat and heal right now. It's almost like if you go to a doctor and you're sick with a cold, they're going to give you antibiotics so that you can get better. The therapist is going to have a separate set of skills to help heal you emotionally and mentally. I'm not dealing with that. I am dealing with, I think of myself as the hands and the feet of the operation. And I'm going to now take this person who is healed or is maybe 75% healed. You don't have to be 100% healed. Who's ever 100% healed? I can take now if you are if you are chronically depressed and you cannot, even think straight, and I can't work with you then either, because there needs to be a level of wholeness for you to work with me. I need your neurological system needs to be intact so that I can work with you. Just like I wouldn't work with, even though I worked in addiction space, for coaching, I wouldn't work with a person who's an addict who's not in treatment because they need that clinical intervention. I'm going to work with you when a person who they could have mild depression and mild anxiety. I work with those clients because they have enough neurological stability, emotional stability, mental stability that they can work on goals. And then we're moving forward. We might pause every once in a while to check in, but we got a plan and the action and we headed somewhere.
Okay, now
That's a great question.
that clears it up because it sounds like I really think I know a lot of people who dibble or say they want to go to therapy. Um, what would you say that you would come after therapy, kind of by what you just said? But I
Mm-mm.
feel like some people need more of what you're referring to in terms of just like immediate intervention for how they're going through their life, and some people aren't
Right.
necessarily ready to talk to a therapist about certain things.
So here's the thing. For the past 3 years, I've worked um, in an organization where my client, she had worked with myself as the coach and a therapist. So they saw a therapist and a coach every week for 8 weeks. So they worked with both of us. And so they were getting what they needed from the therapist, talking about their past, and they were getting with me to work forward. So we worked simultaneously. But I had overwhelming clients who expressed to me that they got more out of the session with me. And that's probably because they were working towards their vision and being fulfilled because they're working in their purpose. They're working towards their purpose. They're working towards the things that they really value. They were closing the gap between where they are, where they want to be, and not just talking about their past. And that is the same reason why said therapist will not work with somebody in her private practice unless they had a therapist, because she also recognizes the need and the value for true growth and wholeness and healness is that you are working and you're living out your value, your goals, your life. And you're not just sitting here in the seat of the past, but you're taking steps to your future. Not that we're not discounting the past, but we cannot live in the past. And this is why this is what I live for. You know, when Frank and I were together years ago, it's amazing, right? I was reflecting on that today, as I knew I was going to be on your platform. And there was a business title that he called, he named, which was Farmers from Eden. We grow people. And here it is today. I feel as though my life, the intersection of my life, um, is one and the same. The call on my life, the my natural talents and ability, of what I do for a living, and what I do even as my spiritual employment at my place of worship, all has to do with helping people optimize and grow their lives. And this has been, I know this is who I am. This is why I was created in the earth to do this work. I do it. Uh, it's just a complete joy and honor to be able to serve God and people in this way, to help them maximize their lives. And my three children, they get the benefit of a mom who has probably coached them their entire lives. And at now that they're young adults, I really work hard to take off the parent hat and put on the coach's hat in a more professional way, because now that they are young adults. And my middle child always reminds me, Ma, do you talk to your clients like that? And I'm like, okay, I have to dial it back, take off the parent hat and put on the coach hat with him.
The middle child is the one that you had the chance to speak to, Dre. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so as we begin to wrap up, first of all, this has been this has been great. I think Dre would agree. Do you, kind of following up with the questions that Dre just asked, there are going to be those people who kind of see the work that you do in the health and wellness space. Are you in a position where you can accept insurance? Because for a lot of people in that space, that's how they've grown accustomed to paying for things. And following up with that, I guess at some point we definitely want you to share with our audience how people can reach out to you for services.
Right now in the coaching space, um, it is, I think they're lobbying the governing body is working on our behalf to get us to that place where we can take insurance. But right now, today, it is just cash basis. And so if a person wants to work with me, they would have to pay out of pocket for right now. Um, but that may change, and I hope it does. I do. I am positioned to be able to take it as soon as they make the change. I have my business name and the necessary codes to do that. The name of my business for your listener audience, and I would love to work with anybody who's ready to optimize and to thrive. Um, the name of my business is Just One Coach, and it's spelled out in all words. The number one is spelled out JUSTONECOACH, Just One Coach. But if you want to work with me, you can just email me, and it would be Just One Coach and my name, Marsha, Marsha @gmail.com. And just shoot me a text saying that I want coaching, and I'll reach out to you with next steps.
Okay. And I will include all of her information in the bio. Marsha, if you just shoot me over that information again at the end,
Sure.
we can definitely make sure that that information is readily available. Any links that you want to provide, I'll have those in the bio for everyone.
Okay. Thank you.
And thank you so much for telling us about executive functioning. Like this is perfect for our first um, episode back, the first episode of 2026, starting off strong, giving people something to work towards and analyze about themselves. So that's a big thing that we focus on here on this platform, and definitely would love to have you back on as a guest in the future for any time that you're free and available. Because this was an amazing conversation.
Thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed it myself, and it was definitely my pleasure. Thank you all for having me.
So just to end off, I know Frank, your birthday is coming up. My birthday is tomorrow. So we're filming this on the 22nd. My birthday is on the 23rd. So
Wow.
I
Happy
will thank you,
birthday.
thank you. I'll be
How
32.
old will you be?
I'm turning 32.
Oh, wow. You're a baby.
I'm in the middle now. I'm right in the middle now. So I'm unk to some people. I'm unk to some people, but no, I'm very blessed to have reached the age of 32. I'm very thankful to be where I am. Actually, Frank, so what I'm wearing right now, I didn't even get to tell you. I've been making my hoodies, the official We the Sauce hoodie. So
Oh,
I'm wearing
wow.
one right now.
Let me see. What's it called?
The brand is We the Sauce. So this is the front. That's kind of like a
Oh,
sauce. That's
that's
the
nice.
city of Atlanta. Hold on, let me. It's really the
Oh,
back. Hold
nice.
on, let me see. I don't know if you can see.
Oh,
We,
yeah. I
okay,
like that.
okay, let me see. Wait, establish. It says establish something.
Yeah, in 2016. Yep.
Okay.
So
So
That's what's up.
we the sauce.
yes.
What is that? What is that?
So We the Sauce is the brand. I've been working on this for. This is the 10-year anniversary. So it started in 2016. Me and a couple of my friends were putting together like a cultural hub of just the music we were listening to, um, and we were in college and just learning so much information, and we were trying to create a platform to get all the information out to people. So at that time we were learning a lot about just black history, ancestors,
Oh,
politics, stuff like
okay.
that. So trying to create a fun environment for people to have discussions and
Okay.
learn stuff. So, and that's what the
That's pow-
platform continues to do.
that's powerful.
So is the sweatshirt, is it available on online yet?
Not for sale. So these were the
Okay.
samples. Me and the other co-founder had our own um, hoodies made just to start off. We have a whole bunch of other designs that we wanted to kind of get together, but we just was like, let's start simple with the hoodie. See how people like it and kind of go from there. So took a lot of work. I used a lot of different tools, some AI. It helped me, with the process, learn all the steps. But we was able to get the product done really just at the top of this year. So I was aiming to get it done by the end of 2025. I think we finally got them like maybe the first week of January, but still very happy to have it here and looking forward to making some more. So I gotta get you an official shirt too. So I'm starting off with people who have been working on the platform with me, getting them their stuff first. It's just exclusive, so we have something to wear when we're on our platform. Promoting our own brands as opposed to other other
Absolutely.
brands. Um,
So
Absolutely.
when you said you physically made it yourself, like you got all the tools to make it yourself, or you ordered it, you sourced it out.
so I kind of went through the process of this would be like considered a sample. So I purchased a blank hoodie. I purchased two blank hoodies and then made the design on a tool called Canva. Um,
Right, Canva. I'm
mhm,
familiar with Canva.
And so I used that to kind of just create a whole bunch of different
Gotcha.
designs. This one originally we wanted to kind of have some stitching, but that was getting a little pricey. Like the hoodies themselves were already a little like because we were trying to go for good quality hoodies and stuff
Quality.
like
Yeah.
that. So
Right.
that's
Right.
why we
Right.
only were like we'll start off with two. Yeah, we couldn't especially not knowing how many people would purchase. How quick we would make our money back from that. So it was like
Right.
let's just make our own, have something that we can wear, and then from there we'll see the interest in it and kind of go from there. Originally, I wanted to have more embroidery, so have like We the Sauce. I wanted that on like the hood, the top of the hood. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, those prices started to get up there when you talk about stitching, converting files and stuff. So, but I learned a lot about the process in general. So, I
Okay.
definitely can't wait to release an actual brand. I have a whole bunch of things. It's just that monetary monetary factor of trying to make sure
Right.
that you can afford it. So, but yeah, very excited about some more creating more in the future.
Awesome.
Well, that looks good, man. And you've been putting the work in 10 years is
That's commendable.
is commendable. It's commendable to be doing something positive for 10 years. That's commendable.
Hmm.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. And
Hmm.
so
Yeah. So
this.
we stopped filming.
Oh no, we're about to just wrap up real quick. I was about to
I was still.
just end. Yeah, this is thank you everyone for joining us. Like he said, 10 years in the making. We trying to go 10 more. We're trying to stay consistent throughout the remainder of this brand. Hopefully, we're bringing you great information and good conversation, things to think about, things to consider like coaching. Everyone, even if you've never been in a sport, I think you may not understand exactly how important coaching is. When you watch sports on Sunday or on Saturday, if you're watching basketball, you have to understand how much coaching goes into some of the greatest players. Everybody needs coaching, whether it's financial, mental, physical training, personal trainers, things of that nature. Um, don't underestimate the powers of coaching and the people who do the coaching. We appreciate both of you guys' services for um, just your impact in the community and continuing to share your talents with everyone. It is appreciated. I appreciate it. And thank you guys both for joining me tonight on the platform. Marsha, has been an absolute pleasure. Come back anytime. To our audience, please remember to like, comment, subscribe. If you feel that you may benefit, please reach out to Marsha and get some coaching of your own. And if you need financial help, please reach out to Frank. Anything else for I can help you with maybe some AI or something if you want coaching from me. But yes, thank you so much everybody for joining us, and we will see you next time.